Hello and welcome to my new video. In this video, I want to give you a little insight into what I was able to generate here with this balcony power plant at this spot. How much of it I was actually able to use for myself and what I was able to use it for. But before we get started, let's take a quick look back. I've already experimented with several balcony power plants. You've seen that in my videos, and actually I've had one registered for many years now. But of course, that has changed a bit over time. I already found this balcony power plant system very nice. We had an inverter and accordingly 2 modules about 400 watts. And the advantage of this system was that I could monitor via an app how much energy I had generated and what my modules on the roof had produced. However, a big problem arose. I had a lot of energy production in the summer, sometimes around midday, but my household consumption was too low and I lost a lot of electricity to the grid. And that was, of course, very frustrating for me, as it was for many of my viewers who also had a balcony power plant like this. Then, some time ago or last year, the Anker SOLIX E1600 first generation came onto the market. That was then my first balcony power plant storage, which was then used accordingly. I also worked at another place. I'll show it to you. Here was the storage, and here were the corresponding modules, about 800 to 850 watts, lying here on the roof. And the advantage of this system was that here, for the first time, I had a storage unit with which I could also control the energy output accordingly. What does that mean for me? I had a digital electricity meter installed by my energy provider, and this allowed me to see roughly how much energy I needed at what times. That means I went downstairs several times a day and checked whenever I thought nothing was running in the house to see how much energy I was using. That means for me, over the course of the day, I have about 300 to 450 watts. Let's just call it standby power. That's the electricity that's always flowing, or the energy that's always being used. And at night, this value was around 200 to 250 watts. Of course, I could really work with these numbers because if we have a balcony power plant like that, it can easily generate 5, 6, or even 9 kilowatt hours on a day like that in the summer. With this, we can definitely act now. That means I took the first generation Solarbank, went into the menu and set it so that I have a base load of 300 watts during the day. And at night, I set a base load of about 150 watts here. The big advantage of this, of course, is that I generated the energy during the day. And first, of course, the battery was charged. But nevertheless, we were also able to feed energy into the grid accordingly. When the battery was full, the excess energy was fed into the grid. But at night, when the sun had set, I was able to use the remaining energy from the battery again, and was therefore able to use most or the largest part of the energy I generated for the house, and thus lost very, very little energy to the grid. That means, by getting the first balcony power plant storage, I was able to greatly increase the efficiency and profitability of my balcony power plant. Then, at the beginning of, let's say, March, January, February, March, April it was, then the new Anker SOLIX Solarbank E1600 Pro came onto the market. And I was also, fortunately, one of the first German users who was allowed to test this solar bank here in this country. And of course, this one eventually replaced Solarbank 1 for me. I installed Solarbank 2 here accordingly, and as you can see, I also installed 2 additional storage units. Why did I install 2 additional storage units? I roughly calculated how much energy I need, how much energy I want to store, and how much energy I want to use during times when I don't have any sunlight. Here on the Anker SOLIX Solarbank Pro 2nd generation, I've connected 4 modules. That means we have, I'll just show them on screen, 2 modules with around 405 to 450 watts each, and here another 2 500-watt modules. The advantage is that these modules are oriented differently. Of course, I can do this perfectly with the Anker SOLIX Solarbank Pro because we have 4 maximum power point trackers here, and I could basically orient each module differently and capture the sun throughout the day without it affecting the other trackers or causing any losses. What do I ultimately do with the energy? There have been some nice innovations at Anker. At first, we could only set the energy output in the program, which was already a good improvement. That means I could set at various times how much energy from my system was fed into my grid to my devices. And then I introduced the smart meter to you in a video. That was, of course, a revolution, and the smart meter gave me a good idea. I had already shown you in another video that I have this small heat pump here, which I use to heat my domestic water. The domestic water that we use here in the house during the day requires about a certain amount of heating energy, or let's just say it has a certain electricity consumption per day. That is somewhere between 3 and 8 kilowatt hours. However, I can't say exactly when the heat pump turns on, when I need the energy. And this is where the smart meter comes in handy, of course. Smart plugins can now be used for this purpose too. Just plug these in front of the device, and that way our system knows exactly when the device turns on and can then provide the energy the device needs to run. That means I've set up the system so that I can always cover a certain base consumption in the house. That's ideal for smart meters, which can measure your base consumption always covered by the system while excess is stored here. But if, in the end, this small heat pump starts up here, it draws about 650 to around 750 watts. It modulates a bit here. But that's exactly the range that I can generate with this system here, or output more through the inverter. And that's, of course, perfect for me. If the heat pump turns on here now, my inverter also turns on accordingly, provides the energy that the heat pump needs, and I can basically use my nicely stored energy here mostly for the heat pump as well. That's one of my bigger consumers, which also runs steadily over a longer period of time, and so it's ideal for coupling with this system, for example, via the smart meter, via the smart plug-in. And so last year, let's say around June or July, I was able to cover my entire domestic hot water needs here with this system and didn't have to buy any more electricity from the grid. Or if I did, it was only very rarely and in very small amounts. Of course, that was a big advantage for me. Because I now have a consumer like this here, I was basically able to use almost all the energy I generated here. And of course, that greatly increased the efficiency of this system. Now let's just take a look at what this system has brought me over the past year. I've already shown you in various videos that I haven't had this system in operation for that long yet. I installed it here at the end of spring last year. Before that, of course, Solarbank 1 was still running. But let's just take a look at what I was able to generate and consume overall here. Now there's an excellent tool from Anker, namely the annual review. This will probably be offered to you in your app soon as well. That means just click on it, open it, agree to the terms of use here, and just take a look at what your system has achieved. Let's take a look at what my system was able to produce here. We can see that I was able to generate well over 700 kilowatt hours with the system. That's quite a lot. And the special thing is, thanks to the settings or ultimately the smart plugins and the smart meter, I hardly lost anything to the grid anymore. That means I was able to use almost 100% or let's say 99% of my energy myself. I hardly fed anything back into the grid after the year was over. That means I hardly lost anything. You can see here as well what I was able to generate and how that affected me accordingly. The advantage was as follows. Last year, as long as I was in the sunny season, in the summer, and of course throughout the year, I had to buy very little energy for my heat pump here and was able to operate the heat pump almost completely free of charge. It's worth noting that the system's performance was slightly lower in October, November, and December compared to the rest of the year. But even then, I was still able to make a significant contribution to energy production, heat generation, and producing hot water with my heat pump, and was able to meet my domestic hot water needs at extremely low cost. So, that should pretty much cover everything for this video. If you have any questions about my system, the setup, or any other information here, please leave them for me in the comments below. Maybe there will even be a follow-up video as a result. I hope you found my video enjoyable or helpful. If that was the case, I'd appreciate a thumbs up. Want to watch more of my videos? No problem. Just hit that subscribe button. Subscribing on YouTube is, of course, completely free. With that, I'll say goodbye. See you next time. Yours truly, Mark on YouTube.